Well, just to help us explain this report and understand it a little more, I'm joined now by David Soucie, who is CNN's aviation safety analyst, a former FAA inspector and the author of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. He's with us from Denver, Colorado via Skype, and it is fascinating that you originally you have in the past worked for the FAA. It must be a very uncomfortable report for many there to read. There is a lot of blame to go around. Help us understand what this report tells us and how damning a verdict this is, David.
Well, what it tells me, having been with the FAA for as long as I was, what it tells me is that there's a repeating cycle of this lack of oversight by the FAA. Excuse me. In 2002, there was a certification process study. I was on the team that did the response to that study. And within that study, it said very explicitly that the problem with the oversight and the communication between the airline and the FAA needed to be strengthened. And indeed, it was in 2004. But in 2012, it was all thrown out the window when in 2012, the FAA had a new certification process study that focused on the ability to designate or to delegate the safety authority and the inspections that needed to be done back to the manufacturers. This isn't just a Boeing issue. This is an issue with every manufacturer that the FAA has oversight over.
In several critical instances, according to the report, Boeing withheld crucial information from the FAA, from its customers, and from 737 MAX pilots. What sort of information was withheld, David?
Well, information about the MCAS, the system, which is the system that is still in operation even when the autopilot is off. It continues to control the ability for the pilot to respond to what's going on with the aircraft. Now, the fact that that was concealed is unforgivable. That is something that should have been done. It should have been revealed. But it also gives us a peek into something at a higher level, which is how were they able to do that? Why was it that they could conceal that? And that's the thing that the FAA and this report really is focusing on, is it's not just an individual manufacturer that made this mistake. It's a systemic problem in that how could they actually be able to hide something of that significance in a technological environment like we are now? Small things like that culminate into fatal catastrophes like we've seen here.
Is there an endemic culture here at the FAA that can't be fixed, or at least is a long way from being fixed? That's a really good question, because the fact is that in any safety culture, I've been studying safety cultures my entire life, and it really, some specialists, experts on this will say it takes 17 years to change a culture, because that's how long it takes for that generation to pass through and the next generation to come forward. I'm very hopeful that the next generation, which I think is in place now with changes in management in Boeing and changes in management in the FAA, I'm hopeful now that this next generation of overseers is going to understand the importance, particularly with the advancements in technology. We'll be advancing into artificial intelligence. We'll be advancing into a lot of different technologies that we don't even know about now. If we can't figure out how to oversee those and to predict how they might interact with each other and communicate those things between the various agencies, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. This report was 18 months in the making. David, very briefly, are we, as people who fly around the world, anybody watching this, who probably aren't flying at the moment because of the pandemic, but I mean, when we get back to flying, are we any safer now from what has been learned or not?
I think we are safer now. I think it's increased an awareness of the fact that this thing that went through the way that it did. Everybody is hypercritical right now about looking at things that they didn't look at before. They've just we've gone from this idea of black and white, or of this gray culture, to a black and white culture, and they're much more aware of it right now. And I think that it's, in my opinion, it would be a safer environment now because of the awareness.
Fascinating. David, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.